Alright, it's Sunday morning, time to get this girl ready for racing. So like I said yesterday, on the video I made yesterday, we're going to check the valves, going to pull the valve covers off and pull all the push rods out, inspect them because of what I found when I freshened it up last winter. Engine's only got 8 nights of racing, and one night was a decent night and the rest of them were mediocre. Well, one night was a really good night, finals, first one. But I got 2 3-packs of 1-gallon cans of Shell Rotella 1540. I hear my dog out there howling again. And ordered off of Amazon, $59 per 3-pack. I pretty much have to order all my oil now. It seems like every time I try to buy it locally, I just can't find either the brand or the weight I need. Nobody has anything in stock. Same with oil filters. I got a bunch of FL1A Motorcrafts that I've ordered last year. I forgot how many were in that box, but I still got quite a few of those. Oh yeah, well, that's full. I don't think I used any of those. Okay, good. And I'm also going to be changing the oil later in the 94 Power Stroke. That's why I ordered 2 boxes. And that should be enough. And okay, let's get started. Okay, so I got the car off the ground, and I was just going to check, make sure everything's good and tight and safe. Nothing coming apart with the suspension. I haven't even grabbed anything and shook it yet, but the first thing I noticed, that one isn't too bad, but this one is tight. So it's probably time to put pads on this thing again. Those Wildwood brakes, they wear the pads uneven. If you remember, about 5 or so years ago, I made a few videos on it. I even rebuilt the calipers and it didn't help, but I was having trouble with the brakes not fully releasing. And they were tighter than this, but what happens is they wear uneven. It's a Wildwood kit, and it's a lightweight kit. The calipers work great. I always got a good stiff pedal, and it stops good for manual brakes on a race car. But those brackets also made out of lightweight aluminum, and they flex, and I believe that's why they wear the pads uneven. And when the pads get uneven, it puts the pistons in a bind, and you get that. And the more they wear, the worse it gets, the tighter the wheels stay, and it gets enough to where it slows the car down. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, causes inconsistency. So yeah, long story short, I'm going to order some new pads. Oh no, he's not using a Wix filter. It's ruined. I've always used Motorcraft FL1As. That's all I ever will use. Actually, some drag racers, this is all opinion. Everybody's got their own. And everybody's got one, like other things. But some drag racers feel that the more expensive, smaller microfiber or whatever you call it filters are kind of too restrictive, and it makes your oil pressure fluctuate. That's just what I was told by some guys. And I know that when I used to use 10W40 after a pass and I get some heat in the engine, my oil pressure kind of was a little bouncy at idle coming back to the trailer. Ever since I switched to Rotella 1540, it seems to hold up better. But before someone says you should only use Wix, opinions vary. And I've been racing for almost 30 years now. I have blown up 2 engines, and both of them, one of them pulled a rod in half. It was a 302, and the bearings were still perfect after it blew up. The other one was the 514 crate engine that this engine replaced. That one had the hypertectic pistons in it, and it pulled a wrist pin out of the piston after 5 years of racing. The 302 had 5 years of racing on it too, stock rods. So, and the 514, bearings were perfect in it, even though it pulled the wrist pin out of the piston. So, that's what I say about FL1A oil filters. Never had a bearing issue. Tight enough. Yes, I cleaned my funnel. Jiglitch, 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 jiglitch. It's full until I start it, and I'll probably have to add another half quart, but I will do that after I start it and warm it up and everything drains back down. Okay, so I've already checked all the valves on the other side, removed each rocker arm, inspected the push rods, and they all look fine. So whatever caused that last year, I took care of it, either by running better oil. I think I mentioned that in that video way back when I tore this engine down, that I kind of went with not a super cheap oil, but I went with a non-synthetic, just Pennzoil 1040. And this time around I used the Rotella I just showed you, 1540. And I also put a different set of push rods in it. They were used, but they was out of a different engine, and it was good. But all of them look good. I'm down to the last one on this side. So we're going to take it off, inspect it. I've already done videos on adjusting solid lifters, but we can go over that. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot one thing. Okay, this is the exhaust. The rule is intake open and exhaust closed, meaning when you adjust the intake, you want it on the low side of the load of the cam. And the best way to find that, at least that's what I read in the Lanati catalog, intake open, right when the valve is starting to open, exhaust just when the intake valve is starting to close. So let's bump it. I don't know if you can see through around my hand. But my finger is on the intake valve. Pump it. So the valve closes. Just starts to or opens, and it's just starting to close. And there we go. I think I already loosened that, so it's going to be really loose. Yeah. But that's how you know you're on the low side of the load. And that's where you want to adjust your lash, of course. And this cam is a 677 lift. I usually set them at 24 clearance valve lash. And I've been inspecting all of my rocker arms. This one looks good. And we'll pull this pusher rod out. This is the way I've done each and every one of them, just because of what I found last year. And this one looks good. Both sides. So we're going to stick it back in there. Make sure it's in that lifter cup. And take my poly lock. I'm going to loosen that set screw up a little bit. And the lash felt good on all of them. None of them wore down or anything. So now, this is not my favorite chores, checking these, because these little poly lock nuts can be picky, and sometimes you got to readjust them several times before you get the feel that you want on your feeler gauge. The 24 thousandths feeler gauge between the roller on the lifter and the top of the valve. I snug it down until I feel friction on that feeler gauge. I'm going to snug my set screw down, and I don't want the nut to turn. So I'm going to grab that with a wrench. Oops, and I moved it. There we go. Try to do this and leave it a little bit on the loose side when I tighten the set screw, and as of right now I might want to, and now to make sure I get it good and tight, I got that set screw butted up against it, and I snug that nut down. Now you don't want to go too crazy. You can crack that poly lock doing it this way. I need to loosen that up a little bit. It's something that takes practice to get the right feel. And actually, the one I'm doing on camera is being a little more anal than the rest of them have been. It's probably because I'm focusing on making a video and not what I'm doing. Now, snug it out a little bit. Feel just about the right drag. Go a little more. And there we go. We know our nut's tight. We know the set screw is tight against the top of the stud. And we got a pretty good feel. And this engine is cold. That's where I set them at. 24 thousandths cold. So we'll pull spark plug out. I pulled them all out on the other side, and they look great. Very clean. That one's going to come out easy. The others I had were kind of, the threads weren't messed up, but I use anti-seize on them usually. But the others were just kind of not finger tight or loose all the way out. And as you can see, I'm going to clean them all off, but they look pretty good. So I'm going to check the rest, take all the rest of them out, just clean them with the wire brush and my pedestal grinder, and this thing's ready to go back together and start up.